And so that's why we kind of settled on the label that we did for retail. And it's been nice because whenever we do tastings, we find that there's a younger demographic who don't feel like producers are speaking to them. And there's certainly a female demographic that don't feel like producers are speaking to them, whether or not they get Jane Walker released or not. Um, that's. I'm glad to see fellow whiskey lovers shaking their heads.
No, that was
Um,
terrible. That was terrible.
it's terrible pandering. And so, yeah, we just wanted to be accessible to more people, different demographics, and have a joke, have a laugh. And when we actually went to our graphics company, we said to them, we want something that looks hand drawn. We want something that's immediately accessible. And when they came back with a design, aside from a few tweaks, we pretty much accepted the design as they gave it to us. And with all of that said, keep your eyes peeled because in 2020 we have a redesign coming. So,
Nice. Hold on one second. Hey, Randy, can you set record? Because when I made you host, it knocked me off. Okay, you're good. All right, I just wanted to make sure it was getting
that's
recorded.
a man of many talents over there.
Oh, I'm all over the place.
There's nothing that man can't do.
Not at all.
That is a handsome mustache. I love that mustache.
Yes. So Randy and I have been friends for 30 years. Most of the people here I've known for at least 20 or 30 years. And that's how this group evolved.
None of you look old enough to have been friends that long.
Oh yeah, that's
we are.
And it's true what they say about the Scots, flatterers all.
It's true.
yeah.
I say that as the guy with the white hair in the group as well.
It's
It's
so sweet.
So
yes, sorry. What was the question before I had to get into my retail patter? What was the question?
No. Again, that was one of the reasons that I didn't buy into. I looked at it and passed it by, and then again, as having become Sam's friend, and he's really just an amazing person when it comes to the industry. Good industry person.
I interrupt you to say I agree 100%.
But he continues to send me samples, and it's when he sent me some of the Single Cask Nation stuff, I went, and again the Cameron Bridge. He introduced me to another vendor's Cameron Bridge, and I loved it. Chased it down in Chicago, bought some more bottles, and then I saw you had the 26. I picked that up, and I'm starting to realize as I'm evolving, just 20 years into my whiskey experience, I realized I really like grain Scotch.
There you go. There you go. Who was the other Cameron Bridge that you chased down in Chicago? It wasn't Exclusive Malts, was it?
Sam, you can answer that because I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, it was Exclusive Malts, 26 years old, Cameron Bridge Sherry Cask.
Figured, yeah. Solid selections from David. He's a good lad.
So how long ago did you start?
Yeah. So the company itself was established in 2011. The thing I always tell folk is, yes, I'm Scottish, but I grew up in a blue-collar household, and my family drank the cheapest of cheap bottom shelf. If there was a shelf below the bottom shelf that had blends in jugs, plastic jugs, my family would buy those. Any name brand that you can imagine was considered just the highest of high shelves in my family. Like if you showed up with a Dewar's or a Teacher's or a Grouse, oof, you were highfalutin. You're a fancy pants. They drank absolute rock gut. And so it would always be in a tumbler. And they would never add ice because it's Scotland, it's cold enough. But my dad would do, say, 2 fingers of blend, and then the rest would be water from the faucet. So it's ice cold, relatively pure, coming out the faucet in Scotland. I had another uncle who would drink it with ginger ale, another uncle who would drink it with what we call lemonade, but you would call 7-Up or Sprite. And so anytime I was drinking or sneaking sips from what they were drinking, it was just horrible, absolutely horrible. And so, like a lot of Scots young people, I grew up thinking that I didn't like whiskey. And so I ended up at the University of Aberdeen. As story as old as time, I met a chap from Finland who was the same age as me. And he said, I'm going to go along to the University of Aberdeen Whiskey Society. Do you want to come along? And I thought, not really. I don't really like whiskey. That seems like a waste of time. But in the interest of making a friend at university, I'll come along with you. And I remember they poured a single malt. And it was the first time I looked at this beverage that had always been absolute garbage and detestable, and always watered down and make the flavors go away. And I thought, this is all right. This is all right. And like a lot of people, it was a Glenfiddich that was my entry. And, 40%, not a lot going on in it. Some pear notes, some bright fruit, some cereal notes. But it wasn't a really garbage bottom shelf plastic jug blend. And I thought, that's all right. And so this guy, Petty, the Finnish guy, and I bought at our local supermarket, we bought a bottle of Glenfiddich because it came with 2 cut tumblers. Thank you. Always prudent. And so it gave us it gave us the glassware that we could then drink in our dorm room. And so now we're drinking Glenfiddich single malt in tumblers, thinking, well, this is it. We've made it. There's nothing after this. And we got exposed to Highland Park. And I swear to God, after we tasted Highland Park, I have never tasted Glenfiddich again. It was like, thank you very much. Appreciate your service. And now I lay you down to rest. And so we had the Highland Park. And then we went and bought a bottle of Highland Park and we shared that in our dorm room. And then in the January, so we'd been going to society for a couple of months at this point. In the January, they poured a Lafroig 10. And I was like, this fills my soul. This is all I need for the rest of my life.
That's so funny.
That's our punishment scotch.
Mm.
I don't know if it's our punishment scotch so much as it's the level setter. As you join the group, every member must try Lafroig to join the group.
Okay.
It's a must to expand your horizons.
Okay.
Join the 3 Drunken Celts. There's only 2. There are basically 2 rules to joining the 3 Drunken Celts. 3 people have to say yes. So since there's hundreds of us, it's almost impossible for you not to become a member. Like there's not one person doesn't like you can't join. And we wanted to make it that way because we don't care about personalities. We don't allow politics in the camp. So when we have a tasting, no politics. And then to join, you either had to bring 10 bottles to the next tasting, which is what the 3 original members did, or you have to take a shot of Lafroig with 3 members.
3 members?
At the time. Now it's 3 members. Before it used to be every member in attendance. And then
When I joined,
we got tired of
into
giving
both
Lafroig
sides.
all our money.
Yeah, I drank
Random.
Lafroig with every member that was there.
So,
You're old school and we love you.
Jason, you have to picture this. We're camping in an event that's got 3,000 people, and someone says, "I want to be a member," and 3 people say yes, and then everyone starts yelling, "Everyone from 3DC, come in!" And you got 20, 30, 40 people from different camps showing up.
This
And
is
they're
us.
like, "What?
No,
We're making a member." They all had to take a shot of Lafroig, and most people don't.
I enjoyed it.
Wow. Well, if this is me drinking Lafroig in front of, 13 of you? Like, is this it? Am I in?
Wait.
Gotta get 2 other members to drink with you.
Patrick has it. Patrick has some Lafroig. I have some Lafroig. Anyone else?
Look at this.
I mean, we can make an exception.
Unfortunately,
No.
my Lafroig's over with Arwen.
Oh, yes. When you give up precedent, then everything is lost. Do not give
True.
up precedent on my
Jason,
behalf.
you're just going to have to come back next week, and I'll go get a bottle of Lafroig.
Check this out.
Same.
Sean South.
I will make it happen. For you, I will make it happen.
I'm still going to enjoy my Lafroig no matter what. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again for
To be
having me.
fair, it
Cheers.
has to be a Lafroig 10, but cheers.
That's right.
It doesn't have to be a Lafroig 10.
Mm.
We never made that
A
rule.
Lafroig 10.
I've got a few of those off screen as well. So, yeah, when I first moved to the United States, it's a long story short. So I ended up this guy Petty and I, we ended up becoming presidents of the Whiskey Society by the end of our time there. I then moved over to the US, and I remember I was sitting in the Palouse. So we moved to Pullman, Washington, and I was sitting on the Palouse, and I was just like, what happened to all this whiskey that I drank when I was in university? Like, this is slim pickings. This is dire. And so I started a whiskey society on the Palouse, and it's still going strong to this day. I was actually meant to be there in March to host a tasting, and for years, we're now year 17 of that whiskey society. To this day, no matter what we pour, no matter how much they like it, they will always break down the price of the thing they like according to 10-year-old cask strength Lafroig. That's it. And so when we started the society, 10-year-old cask strength Lafroig was maybe $45 a bottle. It's now in Idaho, it's about $65 a bottle. And so I remember in the early days, they fell in love with the Lafroig 10 cask strength, maybe meeting 2. And I remember I poured them a Highland Park 18, and at the time, Highland Park 18 was $80 a bottle. Mm-hmm. And to a person, they all said, this Highland Park 18 is pretty good, but it's not 2 Lafroig 10 cask strengths good. And I was like, oh no, I've created a monster. Yeah. And it has remained ever since. To this day, it's now multiples of 65 with Lafroig 10 cask strength. So yeah, we love it.
This is the 20th anniversary of our Whiskey Society.
There you go. Look at that. You're doing something right. I think keeping the politics out is key.
To be fair, I'm a fan of the quarter cask.
Yeah, it's nice. 48% alcohol. Nice biscuity quality to it. A little bit like a sugar cookie for me.
So is it just you and Joshua that pick the casks, or do you have a team now that does it? No,
we are control freaks, and so we made our first hire. We've had an internal web person. We've had an in-person graphics designer who designed all of our Whiskey Jubilee labels and some of our special labels. When it comes to the rebranding, we outsource that. But we actually hired our first whiskey person last October in Scotland. We were expanding globally, and Joshua and I just couldn't do it justice. And so we hired our first whiskey person, and now Jess is her name. You have to have the letter J to be part of this company. Just, I would say I don't make the rules, but I do. So there you go. Actually, now that I see it at the corner of my eye, it's not Lafroig. My mum did this picture over my corner here. This one here. Yes. My mum did this watercolor, and it's actually Lagavulin Distillery. She's very talented. I always think it's Lafroig, but then it's not. It doesn't tie into what I'm drinking. So
this is where it gets weird for me. Is Lagavulin love. I love, especially their 16. Love it. Mm-hmm. But and really, I think Lafroig. I think it's the 10-year-old iodine holds me, and that's why the 10-year-old. But I've actually got from the first 15 to 17 years, where I almost vomited every time I drank the Lafroig. So think about how many members I've made and how much Lafroig I've had. Now I finally have gotten to the understanding of peated whiskey that it doesn't hurt me, but Lagavulin never hurt me.
That's interesting.
It always treated me. It was warm and wonderful, and I think it's that iodine that comes out of Lafroig that other smoky peaties don't get.
Yeah, see, my lament with Lafroig, modern Lafroig, is that it's lost that iodine component. For me, it's become much more minerally. It's much more like licking a beach pebble, which can be good in its own right. But it's become fresher and more coastal. And I wish it would go back to Band-Aids. And
So
I've told
try-
John Campbell I wish it would go back to Band-Aids.
Try this, because I was just introduced to this last week, and that is a friend of mine said that the smell and taste reminds him of wetsuit.
Wet.
A wetsuit.
Oh,
Like a
wetsuit. Yeah, from the sea. Yeah, from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
brain.
I cannot unthink it right now. It's stuck in my
Okay.
head. Every time I try it, that's what I get.
Yeah, what's interesting for us is we've bottled 3 Lafroigs for Single Cask Nation, a 5, a 6, and a 10, and they have little in common with the current house style, and it's remarkable to see what in-house blending is doing for Lafroig, given what's still coming out of the casks. And the casks, I think it was our 6-year-old. Yeah. Oh, here, I'll tell you this. So and Sam and Brian and others know this as well as anybody. So for the US, all of our labels have to go to the TTB, the government organization that rubber stamps them. And so we had a tasting note on our Lafroig 6-year-old that was blah, 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 coastal sea breeze, sea salt in the lips, blah, blah, blah. And then it finished with, and classic iodine note, right? The obvious tip of the cap, nod of the head to Lafroig, right? And so the label went off to the TTB and it got rejected. And it got rejected because to the TTB's mind, mentioning iodine on the label was considered a nutritional claim.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking medicine, but okay.
Only in Scotland.
No, it's your TTB over here.
Here?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, Sean. You don't have to get labels approved in Scotland. You just write them on a Friday, print them on a Monday. It's easy peasy. Yeah. It's over here that you got to jump through the hoops. So
Yeah, fair,
Yeah.
very fair.
So iodine wasn't allowed on the label. We had to take it off.
I was sad to hear. I got on that tasting with Joshua, and he said that you had a separate release. And so for everyone here that doesn't know, you can go onto their website, become a member, just sign up. It's not a cost, and then you get alerted when they have special bottlings. The one I wish we could do a tasting with your whiskeys, but it's almost impossible, right? It's one of the hard things about your bottlings are there's only a certain amount ever given out, so a tasting is only going to last for the 100 or 300 bottles in a barrel.
Exactly. So we're actually doing tastings on the May 20th and May 27th. We sold 35 tickets for the tastings, and they sold out in 6 minutes as well. And for one of the releases, it's actually going to be a rum, an Angostura rum from Trinidad and Tobago. And by the time they taste it, and these are the only people having a preview tasting of it, it'll be sold out before we have the first tasting.
Right.
So you're getting a preview. So what people tend to do, and this is why nothing on our website lasts longer than minutes, is because we've now developed enough of a reputation, which has been really wonderful, hard earned, but really wonderful, that people now know that they like Jason and Joshua picks. And so they'll go in and buy a bottle without ever tasting it, knowing that when it shows up on their doorstep, they will be a fan of it. So yeah, these people having the preview of the rum will have already purchased bottles of it, knowing that they'll get a preview taste before it lands on their doorstep.
I find that you're similar to Compass Box for me in that,
Oh, that's nice.
if Compass Box is putting out a bottling, I know I will at least appreciate it for what it is. If not, I'll love it. And I think
That's very kind. Thank you. That really means the world to me. Josh and I were just with John Glazer in January in London. We also run a podcast called One Nation Under Whiskey, and we interviewed him for the podcast. And he is such a sweetheart, such a lovely guy, and so firmly believes in what he's been doing for 20 years. We had so much in common. It was a really easy conversation. So I really appreciate that compliment. I take that in the highest regard.
Well, and again, I picked these 2 bottles up. I want to go into the milk and honey because partly most of the people here don't know anything about milk and honey, and secondly, 2 years old. 2-year-old whiskey, period, is always suspect. But this is a weird. It's like an adult and a child are battling each other. That's the best way I can describe it. You know how young whiskeys have that feisty nature, and then older whiskeys have a characteristic of oak and maturity, and this whiskey is doing both at the same time.
Yeah, so you've successfully put me on the spot here, because of all the people in this chat who know the most about Milk and Honey, it would be Mr. Sam Filmus and not Jason Johnston Yellin. So I will tell you what I know. We also did an episode with Milk and Honey. Joshua actually flew to Israel and interviewed them in Tel Aviv. And then we actually got to meet them in person at Maltstock in the Netherlands last September. And they're lovely, lovely people. So I'll tell you what I know, and then Sam, please come in and say much, much more. So Milk and Honey, 2013, Israel's first single malt distillery. We knew about them right away because Joshua, who was a blogger before starting the company, is known as Jew Malt in a lot of online circles. You talk about being known by your online presence. And so he was Jew Malt. And then I had a blog as well. I was Good Scotch Drink. And so we both knew, and there's a blogger called Gal Granov, and he's based out of Israel. And so we knew about Milk and Honey through him as well. And so we knew of their existence, we knew of their presence, and we kept an eye on them from a distance. They then got into sending out some new make. Some of us had the chance to taste the new make, and it was incredibly promising. One of the privileged positions that I'm in is that I get to taste a lot of new make from a lot of different distilleries. And so you get a sense of what's running from the still before it ever makes it into wood, and what journey it will then continue once it's in wood. They always say, and you may have heard this from other people, you can put good new make spirit into bad wood and completely ruin it. You cannot put bad new make spirit into good wood and have it turn out to be good product. If you screw the pooch on new make spirit, you've already screwed the pooch on your distillery. You're not turning the corner. And so while the new make spirit obviously isn't the be all and end all, it is incredibly important from day one. So we tasted their new make spirit. We really liked it. We kept an eye on them. They watched what was coming out. We got to see some of the younger releases, and we really liked it. Now the question becomes, as you point out here, how can you get away with a 2-year-old spirit? Well, thankfully, Amrut in India have done the heavy lifting in the world of whiskey geekery for us. So have Kavalan in Taiwan. We're now of a mind that you don't have to have a Scottish style number on your label to have the quality of a Scottish style single malt. Our climate, our rain, our constant rain, our temperature in Scotland means that you need an incredibly long maturation. And having said that, it still doesn't have to be 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 18 years, 30 years. It can be 5 years. When we launched the company, we had a 4-year-old Kilchoman. To this day, it remains one of my absolute favorite releases of Single Cask Nation. So good new make spirit and good wood with good climate, and you can do wonderful things. And what they're then fighting against, Israel, India, Taiwan, they're fighting against the angel share. So all of you know, I could give you all a test right now and you would all pass it. The angel share in Scotland is 2%, right? Officially, on the official transcript, you'll hear 2%. The actual angel share in Scotland is probably under 1%. It's probably closer to 0.75%. But you're allowed to claim 2% loss on your tax return. So you claim 2% loss on your tax return, right? So 2% is the number you'll always hear in Scotland. If you go to India, thank you, I love all the thumbs up, you guys get it. If you go to India, you're looking at maybe a 12% annual angel share. Taiwan, the same. Israel the same. There's a ballpark that they're talking in Israel. 12% is kind of a general takeaway number. So imagine you've filled this, your ex-bourbon barrel, just like we do in Scotland. And if our loss is doing this in Scotland, that's the volume that we're losing in Scotland, right? And we're losing alcohol. If you're in India or Taiwan or Israel, your evaporation is looking more like this. And you are losing water and gaining alcohol, just like in Kentucky, right? So your product is getting stronger as it matures. Scottish product is getting weaker as it matures, right? So you're playing a waiting game here because you don't want to lose all your volume because you need to stick it in a bottle and sell it for a realistic price. You don't want it to become so woody so quickly that it's like licking a stick, right? But you want some level of flavor maturation, not just color maturation, right? Color will go real fast in a barrel for you, real fast. The flavors from the wood will be much slower. So they're playing all of these games. If we buy into the mythology that single malt has to be at least 8 years old before it's any good, we have already failed our friends around the world who have hotter climates. The test of a whiskey, the test of whether a whiskey is ready to put in a bottle is when you taste it. And so when we then went to the distillery, asked for some cask samples, got the cask samples, things were 18 months, 2 years old. We're lucky. We've trained our nation. Our nation know not to be driven by the numbers. They know to be driven by flavors, and they know to trust in Jason and Joshua. And so that's why there's a 2 on that label. When we selected it, it was a 4-year-old with Amrut. And by the time we bottled it, it was a 5-year-old. And they asked us, are you sure you want to put the age on the label? It will scare people away. And we said, we absolutely want to put the age on the label because we need people to know that it doesn't have to be at least 8 years old to be any good. And see, when I start doing this, I'm starting to get really into it. And I'm going to get a little bit intense because this matters. Because I don't want you to think it has to be 8 years old. Sam, what did I miss from Milk and Honey?
Well, good evening, everyone. I apologize for my accent. I can't make it Scottish as Jason does. Sorry about that. Continuing your story about TTB, when we applied for label approval for milk and honey, we had a question from them: how much of milk and how much of honey does this whiskey have? That's TTB. and one of the notes that we were trying to take through on Isla whiskey, I think it was, I don't remember what it was actually, it says medicinal notes, and TTB said no. So that's kind of, now you said about your first whiskey Glenfiddich, like whiskey single malt, and you said you will never drink it. Can you see that?
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Then the next one you said it was Highland Park. You're not going to drink Highland Park anymore? Uh-huh. Now tell me who is who here. Who is Josh or who is Jason? So guys, so this is Highland Park from Single Cask Nation. Single bottle. And this is Keeper of the Quitch Glenfiddich. And I never seen any independent bottlers that would put Glenfiddich name on it. So
exactly,
sorry.
Yep. No, anyways, the keepers are on the inside when they've got the name on the bottle.
Another one was Talisker, but that was before you became one. Anyways, milk and honey. Adrian was saying how come 2 years old whiskey, and I appreciate you guys putting this transparent information on the bottle. I think it's crucially important nowadays. Mm-hmm. We've been working very hard to get this out of people's mindset that it needs to be double-digit number on the bottle, otherwise the whiskey is not good. So with Angel Share that you mentioned, Jason, the Milk and Honey has 2 warehouses. One is in Tel Aviv, another one is right next to the Dead Sea level, basically. And they do lose about close to 15% in Tel Aviv, 25% at the Dead Sea, 25%. So think about that. In 4 years, the cask is gone. So, you can't replenish it with neutral spirits or water or other whiskey. So what's left in this cask is breathing this environment. So as you said, new make, clear, you can drink it from there. You cannot drink too many new makes at the distilleries. Maybe Springbank, maybe Kilhoman, maybe a few more, but usually it needs some time in a cask, 10, 12 years to kind of, become drinkable. You can drink milk and honey new make right off the still, no problem. And their, fermentation time, their distillation time, and what they use as a yeast, and what they use as a wood and the climate, all that plays to what this 2-year-old beauty is what it is. So basically, it's a good story. It's Dr. Jim Swan who was consulting this distillery from day one. And as a matter of fact, he visited it 2 weeks before he passed away. I mean, and he was behind Kavalan, Kilhoman, Golden Corrales, many distilleries where, Penderin.
Penderin, yeah.
So all this under, wise consulting of Dr. James Wan has become what Milk and Honey is today, and we would wish for him to enjoy that, but unfortunately he's not with us, but almost over 3 years now. So back to you, Jason.
Yeah, cheers, Sam. Yeah, it's remarkable, and it really, when Josh and I were whiskey bloggers, we were committed to debunking the mythology of age, and we got very lucky because as we were writing and had an internet world platform, things like Amrit were coming online, Kilhoman was coming online, Kavalan was coming online, and we were able to talk about these younger whiskies that were helping us to break the mythology of age. And so then once we launched the company, we continued with the exact same ethos. And actually, I can't even tell you how many members are looking for this exact bottle at any one time. And as you can, it is open. I do drink it. It is rather delicious. But this was one of the first 3 bottles we launched with. The other one was an Arran, and the other one was a Benriach 17, which was heavily peated. So there you go. So it's all fun and games, right? And that's what I mean. We're having fun.
Well, absolutely. And I think there are 3 mythos that I don't think anyone here believes, and that is color, age, and single malt versus blended.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All 3 of them are either good or bad advertising, depending on which side of the block you're on.
Yeah, you mentioned John Glazer earlier. David Perkins, I think, was another one who showed that you should just, credit a bottle on the merits of the juice. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. Some tidy Samaroli. There you go. You must get paid more than I do, Adrian.
No. So I've done a few things that are cunningly intelligent. One, I bought my house when the economy was at its lowest.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
Then I got renters, and so the rent money goes to the whiskey. So, and actually, that was not a very expensive bottle. I think that was.
Yeah, the blended stuff is all right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And for me, so what I tell most of my friends is I have no kids, I have no wife. I can buy whiskey and enjoy it with my friends. So
God bless you, Adrian. You're doing it right.
Sadly, I don't have enough friends because I've got way too many bottles behind this curtain here.
Okay, and you said California. Okay, California. Okay.
And
ahead,
Fergus, that's not fair because when I'm your friend and I came to your house and you perhaps left your bar open and went to work and when you got home you were upset that I'd help you.
You live in the East Bay. You live in the East Bay. Who goes to the East Bay?
I mean, Jason, if you're going to leave a bottle of Napoke 51 sitting on the counter, wouldn't you help yourself?
Yeah.
I certainly would.
Yeah, the only rule I have in my house is if it's open, you can drink it. That's it. If it's closed, please don't. But
Fergus,
if it's open, have at it.
And it was open, Jason, to be full disclosure. I didn't open any new bottles while I was perhaps drunk and waking up at his house.
So you know why I
Justin?
was upset? Okay, let me explain why I was upset. Because I get home and we're about to leave, and there's like 12 different glasses that still have whiskey in them that you're leaving on my counter. That's not a good guess. You should be finishing your glasses.
I finished my glasses. I'm not responsible for the
who-
for the nefarious attitudes of others.
Who left the other glasses, Sean?
Those names shall not be said. Justin.
There's no way Justin left whiskey in my house because he would have only drank the Napoleon Castle. I have a simple philosophy, and I think most everyone here does too, is there's like maybe in my collection, there's maybe 10 bottles that I don't open. And it's not because I don't open them, it's that I'm waiting for the right group of friends to get together to open it. I don't collect. Worst case scenario, I have a couple extra compass box that I want to trade with other people. So like in Europe, I want to trade and get other bottles, but I don't ever want to make money on that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's
why and honest to God, I picked this up because of the White Star, because of that group of friends who are they're just as awesome and passionate about whiskey as the people that are here. And I think Raz is the only one that's a member of it. Go ahead.
There he is.
You unmuted yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but just so you know, the White Star is pretty much disbanded.
Yeah, I know,
but
they
we appreciate it anyway.
The people are there.
Yeah, the people are still there, and they would love to share with you, and so would I.
A tiny story about them is that in the SCA you have this medieval time type thing, and we're not role playing, but everyone tries to do a lot of people try to create a history behind their persona. And there's a group called the White Star, and they have it's the Star of David, but they took the bottom point and extended it out so it didn't look like a Jewish star anymore. And they were
elongated to base.
Interesting.
Yeah. What?
Interesting.
The 6-pointed compass star elongated to base.
Yes. And so basically they ended up being a Jewish shipping group during the medieval times who pretended to be Christians so they wouldn't get persecuted by the Inquisition.
Well, and they were based in Spain, so we all know about the Inquisition.
Yes. And so that's that's why this group is really a fun group, and we try to keep it light. So this bottle, I'm gonna have enough drams that I enjoy it myself, but then it goes to our event, and I'll put it on the table and let anyone have it.
That's it. That's the best way to drink.
Absolutely.
Okay. Open bottles and good friends.
I think it's John Glazer that puts it the best. It's the only reason to drink or to have whiskey is to drink it with friends.
Yeah.
You should come visit us. I am known to sometimes sing.
Yes. She has a beautiful voice.
And at this point, we should all pour a dram and have a drink.
Okay, so I will.
Here's what I drink. See it?
Slancho.
Let me see.
Oh, Raz has got the
That's
green.
for Sam.
Nice.
What's the distillery, Sam?
M&H.
Oh, there you go. Cool. I couldn't see the top part. I could only see the
I
personally.
got a little bit left. The rest is gone almost. Cask strength. Bottle number 61.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Sam is always gonna beat us out on bringing in such great drams.
Do all of you do things like?
I'm not trying to tease you guys. Come on over to my house and we'll drink together. I need some help anyways. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you all do things like this? Like to save the bottom of a bottle oxidizing, you just put it into I don't know, what's it called, an infinity bottle? And so this is, the black chicken scratch is every distillery that's in this bottle.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
No, we just drink it all.
Yeah.
You call it morning after?
You have more friends than I do.
Haven't told us where you live.
Hold on, let me tell the damn story. After our first grand tasting, we had 63 bottles total at the grand tasting.
What the hell? Wait, hold on. I'm going to be your wife right now. It was 34 bottles the first time.
You're right, 34 bottles. You're right.
But halfway through the evening, you're seeing two of everything. So there was 60.
This keeps getting bigger every year.
End of the night, we had most of them left over, probably 90% of them. So we took an ounce from each and filled another bottle, and we called it last night.
Fantastic.
And it was
That is awesome.
the flavor profile was a lot like fireworks. It just did everything, and it was just
Wow.
heat and smoke and brine and stone fruit and everything at the end. It was brilliant.
That's very cool.
Every year I do a kill the bottle night where I basically go and find anything that has 2 or 3 drams left and pull it out, and then whoever shows up can drink. Typically it's just me, and then I drink until the bottles are empty and clear out shelf space. So I have not had the opportunity to get an affinity bottle because they're gone before.
I tell you, I took some 80s Bowmore and I put it in my infinity bottle, and I just put a little tiny bit in it, and this still tastes like 80s Bowmore, which makes me incredibly happy.
Nice.
That perfumey, soapy. I feel badly for people who don't like 80s Bowmore, but more for me.
So I have a quick question because I don't
Yes.
remember the final count.
I have a long answer.
I just our last tasting. So, Fergus, just to give me some clarity, where would these bottles have landed on our tasting tables?
Oh, okay. So this would have been international, obviously, because it's Israeli, and then this one here would have been I would have probably put it in the Highland table because we don't have a lowland table typically, because there's not a lot of lowland whiskeys. But it actually this changes. So this changes my opinion on lowland whiskeys. I've always felt that lowland whiskeys are that bridge between Irish and Scottish. What is it? Auchentosha is
Brian.
Very, very subtle Scottish whiskey, and it felt like it took me across the bridge to Ireland. But this is not subtle, and it's just wonderful.
So, Jason, I asked that because I'm not as familiar as I should be. I had a very busy work week, actually, and so I wasn't able to catch up on who was visiting us tonight. Our tasting last year was really amazing. We had a ton of different expressions. I don't remember how many, but one of my favorite things and something that really has helped me learn a lot about whiskey is the fact that when we host our whiskey tasting every October, knock on wood, we'll see, we get to introduce so many people to new things. And I ended up manning a table that I knew almost nothing about. And I felt like the people who were coming to my table were almost educating me more than I was educating them.
Sure.
Usually I man the Irish table, but somebody needed to be taking care of the bourbons as well. So it was an experience, but it was also really fun because it introduced me to a new flavor profile that I wasn't really. And still, I won't say like bourbon is my best love, but I think part of what this group is really about is reaching out and finding new whiskeys and spirits to love. So, what do you think, like, when you think about flavor profiles, how would you classify like what you guys are looking for?
Yeah, no, that's a valid question.
Hard question.
When we were bloggers, our number one question was, would we spend the money on this? Yes, we were receiving samples. Yes, we were waxing lyrical about flavors. Would we spend our money on it? And if we would, I would recommend it. And I would tell people. And if I wouldn't, I would say something, milk toast about it, and then not recommend it. In receiving samples now, there are key aspects for us, and it's funny because flavors, not necessarily like individual or specific flavors, is not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is a thread that runs from nose to palate to finish. So as I nose a sample, what story is it beginning to tell me? As we move into the palate, does it continue that story? It doesn't have to be the same notes, that were on the nose that appear in the palate. But if it's a continuation of the story, then I'll go along with it. Then the same question of the finish, does the finish make sense given where we've been from nose to palate? If we don't like the nose of a sample, that's the end of the road for that sample. It could be and we don't score anything, but it could be a 100 out of 100 palate. If it was a 50 out of 100 nose, it's never going to be in a Single Cask Nation bottle. It needs to be pow, 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 nose, palate, finish. The other aspect for us is texture. Joshua and I are known as texture guys. And so and people laugh at us when we say this, even on the nose, you can get texture even when you're nosing a whiskey. Then more commonly, once it hits your tongue, is it creamy? Is it rich? Is it unctuous? Do you get the sense that there's something filling your mouth? Then through the finish, okay, does the texture kind of fall away in a sensible way? If we have a great nose, great palate, great finish, but really thin mouthfeel, we will reject that sample because it's not memorable when it's just completely thin across the mouth. That for me is the problem with 40 and 43% alcohol whiskies, is they're so thin that they're instantly forgettable. And I don't like that. I always joke that if I wanted to drink water, I would get it from my faucet. I don't have to get water from a liquor store. So we're always above 50 for Single Cask Nation. And then finally, with a sample, with a cask, with the pricing, we ask ourselves, would we pay this for this cask? And so the one that we just had was selling the milk and honey online a week ago. It's a $95 bottle online. The retail version is a suggested $90. The retail is ex-bourbon. The online was ex-rum. So it's $95 for a 2-year-old. Question is, would we spend $95 on a 2-year-old? Our answer was yes, if it was this 2-year-old. So we're still asking ourselves that question of pricing and affordability, value, quality for money. And then another question we ask ourselves is, would we reach for this? If this was in a bottle on our shelf, would we reach for this? And that starts to speak to the memorability of a selection, of a cask, of a sample. If we ourselves would go reaching for it, then that tells us what we need to know. And it's kind of interesting because from the moment we select a cask to the moment that cask comes up for sale in the United States, we can sometimes be talking about 6 months. And so there are times when we'll select it, I'll give it another week, we'll go back and we'll write tasting notes, we'll have a little bit more of the sample, a little bit of time will go by, we'll revisit the sample. When that whiskey finally comes into the United States, if that sample bottle has been empty for months, I know that we have selected a winner because it's a sample that we can't stop thinking about and that we're eager to return to. So those are all the aspects for us, but flavor, individual flavor itself isn't a driving force for us. We wait for the individual whiskeys or rums or mezcals or cognacs or sherries to tell us what they're doing. So was that a long enough answer for you?
I think it was a wonderful answer. So I just want to clarify. I have 2 quick questions. Raz, when he says texture, is that what we call like kind of the mouthfeel? Like, is that the same kind of a...
I think we tend to call that viscosity,
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same kind of thing. Is it very thin or very thick? Am I thinking that right, Jason?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And so then just to pivot back real fast, when one of the first times we went to Westland, we went into their lab and into they've got a little closet that's like it's a sensory room. It's a closet, it's a sensory closet. And we saw their checklist for every sample that comes in. And on nose, they had a texture box on nose. And Josh and I were like, vindication. There you go.
I like
There
it.
you go. Thank you.
And then I think my only other question was, let's see, how should I phrase it?
Oh, yes, I like it.
So what is it that drew you guys to create Single Cask Nation?
That's a good question. That's not. I feel like your last question was easier to answer than that one.
I'm difficult. I blame it on my big brother, Sean.
Difficult's an understatement.
So far. So if you can imagine, in 2010, so I'm going back a year each time here. So in 2009, Joshua was a reader of my blog, and he was launching his blog. And we started to talk online about trading samples. And one of the things for us was in writing like daily notes and publishing daily notes. And at the time, I probably had maybe 30,000 readers a month to the blog. And he had about the same number by the time he got up and running. So, it was kind of a serious enterprise, even as a hobbyist. And we continually kind of talked, like, I was a philosophy professor at the time. He was selling industrial components. I love philosophy. This painting used to hang in my office. It's called Amateur Philosophers by Jack Vetriano. And it's kind of two 1950s dudes walking on a beach. And so I loved philosophy, but if I never had to read another student paper the rest of my life, I would have been a very happy camper. And he was very good at his job, but industrial components didn't necessarily excite him. And so we were both kind of like, do you see anything in this? And so Thanksgiving Day of 2010, I was visiting family in Palo Alto, California, and I got a phone call from Joshua, and he said, I've had a crazy idea, and I want you to tell me if I've lost my mind. And I knew right away what he was going to say. And he said, I'm thinking about launching an independent bottling company. And I said, that's a $1 million idea. This is before I knew what those words meant. I said, that's $1 million idea. And he said, and I want you to be an equal partner with me. And I was kind of like, oh, right. And so we talked for a little bit longer. I went back in the house, and my wife said, how's Joshua? I said, he's good. I think I just had a life-changing conversation with Joshua. And she said, all right. And she said, well, whatever it is, if you really want to go for it, I'll support you. And so I was like, oh, okay. So then Josh and I started much more seriously about your very question. What do we hope to do here? Like, we want a career, we want to make money, we want to be in the whiskey industry because it's easily one of the best industries out there. So we knew those three things to be true, but you can't just pitch up one day and sell a cask and that's it, you're made. And so what we wanted to do was be known for top quality selections that came in at affordable prices. And it's funny, the Samaroli example from earlier, Samaroli's pretty much the only independent bottler I don't purchase, just because they're out of my price range, and I don't think I get bang for the buck, even though I've had some delicious 40-year-old single casks from Samaroli. So we really wanted to be top quality at a good, solid, affordable price. And then we wanted to build a community. The reason it's called Single Cask Nation is it was really important to us to have this community of people. And so I'll tell you a very quick story. I have to get going in about 10 minutes. I have to medicate my wife by 10:30. So I'll tell you a quick story. So my wife is Jewish. My kids are Jewish. I'm what we call Jewish adjacent. And so the very first time my wife was coming over to Scotland, my mum took me aside, and I'm from the southwest. I'm actually in Ayrshire. We're just 20 miles across the water from the north of Ireland, so we can see them on a good day. Which, unless it's a global pandemic, Scotland has terrible weather. But for the last 6 weeks, Scotland has never had better weather in its creation. So I digress. And so so my wife, my Jewish girlfriend, is coming over to Scotland. And my mom takes me aside and she says, Tamara's coming to visit. And I say, she is. And she says, Tamara's Jewish. And I said, she is. And my mom said, what will we talk about? Right? My mom's a lovely lady, right? Certainly not anti-Semitic, right? Certainly not, scared of foreign people. It was just Jewish, just like in Scotland, we've got a south part of Glasgow called Newton Mearns. That's where Scotland's Jewish population lives. I'm sure they're dotted around the rest of the country, but that's the only place we know them. So I said to my mum, we're Scottish. I'm sure we'll talk about the weather, right? And so she was like, oh, okay. And so my wife turns up, and what do people talk to her about? What's the weather like in America, right? That was the question. What's the weather like in America? And then once she'd sufficiently answered what the weather's like in America, they asked her what every other person overseas asks her, oh, you're from America, do you have a gun, right? And so we got the weather and we got gun ownership, and that was it, right? Nobody had a question. Here's what my family did, because my family are assholes. My wife is called Tamara, as I just said. They gave her the worst off-key rendition of The Sun Will Come Up, Tamara. And I think she would rather have been run over the coals for anything else, but The Sun Will Come Up, Tamara was absolutely horrific. So when I get talking to Joshua, and Joshua's Jewish, and I'm merely Jewish adjacent, we launched the Jewish Whiskey Company with the independent bottling company under that, Single Cask Nation. So we wanted a community where, Jewish or not, when you come together, you can talk about whiskey. And this is what I love about your group. Screw politics, right? Don't spend any time talking politics. Talk whiskey, talk friendship, talk camaraderie, right? That's what it's about. And that's what we launched with Single Cask Nation. And that was what we wanted to be known for, as well as top quality selections at a good price.
Well, I will say that Joshua there was a good debate in the last tasting with Dan and Joshua where who's cheaper, the Scottish or the Jewish people. And I think we determined the Scottish were, because they keep buying those bourbon barrels because they're the cheapest things around.
It's an old Scottish joke that I adapted for a lot of my tastings. Copper wire was invented by a Jew and a Scot fighting over a penny.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. And next time you're visiting Palo Alto, by the way, I'm about 20 minutes up the road, and Adrian isn't too much further. I'm sure we could arrange a tasting.
I will be there for sure. There's no doubt in my mind.
I've got about 30 some odd Compass Box, different expressions of Compass Box, so we can play around with that. And by then I might have the same with single cask.
It does become addictive, I will tell you that.
Well, yeah, no, for me, it becomes addictive because when people come to my house, I want them to have a hard time figuring out any of the bottles on the table. I want them to go, I've never had that. I've never had that. I've never had that.
Absolutely.
That's what I enjoy introducing them to smaller companies, more fierce whiskey than the average. I think the average. That's what I'm disappointed with someone like Macallan's, who I think, and I think they're getting better now, but I think they had a time period where they lost their finesse and whatnot.
No, I say it freely. When I got into whiskey, as I was saying with the university story in the mid-90s, and at that point, Macallan was phenomenal. Really heavy, rich, tons of dark fruit, tons of raisins, so unctuous. We're talking mouthfeel, so unctuous, even at lower ABV. And it was a remarkable whiskey. And then mid-2000s into the 2010s, it really has gone off the boil. And it makes me sad, and I've said that to many people. I like talking about whiskey, and I'll talk about whiskey honestly and openly as a Scotsman, not as a company owner.
Have I ever tried a whiskey that you guys would consider fruity?
Sure,
That's it.
I've given you a few.
Like what though?
I would say Napo Castle is
that I
pretty.
throw it just ends in stone fruit, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the Napogue, that kind of okay.
The Pogue, but yeah, but also what is it? Edward Dower, the Spaceides in general. They end in stone fruit. It's just kind of a thing they do.
I would say this.
Not all of them, but many.
This is what I love about their bottling is they actually have basically a scale of different flavor profiles. So they try very hard. Whereas John tries very hard to say what's in his cask. They try very hard to give you a really good scale of flavor profile. They also, the color of your barrel indicates what? I'll let you explain it. I think I know, but I don't know.
Region. Just region.
Just region?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll be tidying that up with the rebrand as well. Those came about through necessity. Here, I'll show you this. Give me 1 second.
Now, I only ask because since I don't have like the drams in front of me, I'm trying to place that particular note.
Yeah, and I think you have to sit down and drink several whiskeys and kind of.
Yeah, and there's different fruit too. Some whiskeys will present cherries, some will present raisins, some will present blah, blah.
So, Jason, I'll real quick. So Patrick has been doing a tasting profile of different whiskeys, and for
sorta.
It was the most honest, wonderful tasting note or a nosing note, because he would smell and he goes, there's this good smell of alcohol. And so first and foremost, you're always going to get alcohol. Everything else is hard to find and hard to figure out. And that's why I like ale.
Do you want a little tip on the alcohol side of things? So, because we do everything in natural cask strength, and so whenever we pour a sample, if you stick your nose in it and you get the big prickle on the nose, if you just blow a puff of air into the glass, and it dissipates the alcohol and it releases all of the bouquet, and it's really remarkable. I do that in my tastings all the time, and people who have only ever drunk 40s and 43s suddenly go, oh, okay, it's more than just alcohol when you go to cask strength. Oh, there's something else there.
All your bottles are cask strength?
Yeah, natural cask strength for everything in the Single Cask Nation livery. So I'm going to show you this, and my lighting is off a little bit here, but and so when we launched, those were the labels. And so you can see I like it because it's just a naturalistic cask kind of look, right? God, my lighting is atrocious. There you go.
See it.
Right? And so I really liked that. But then retailers would start to say to us, see, when we line up your bottles, they all look the same. Nobody gets close enough to see, oh, this is Tormore, a California exclusive for Sam Filmus. Instead, it's just another one with the same label that becomes interchangeable, sitting in its box. And so by necessity, we needed to get some color differentiation onto the labels. And I don't think the cask coloring is the most successful. But I will tell you this, retailers loved the fact that we listened to them, and that for release 2, we made an immediate change for them. I think we'll do it in a better way in the rebrand.
I can say right now, I'm pretty sure we could sit here and talk to you all day long.
You're 100% correct, and I would sit and talk to you all day long because this is lovely.
Well, and this is what kind of people we love, and this is the kind of group we have. In general, guys, check out their podcast.
Please.
I would sign up to their website, absolutely. Your price.
Website.
What was that?
In the comments, I put a link up to the website, so that's there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In general, your price points seem to hit right around 80 and go up to about 300 is about the up end.
We did a 30-year-old 1989 Bowmore that was $395, and that blows out the water, our most expensive bottle to date. And we had 150 bottles, $395 a bottle, sold out in 4 minutes. So, if you go to we have the best problem in the world. If you go to our website, we have nothing for sale. It looks like we've gone bust about 100 times in the last 12 months. We just cannot keep stock on the website. So, yeah, I don't know what to say to that. Look for us in retail. But definitely check it out. Just a final comment for me, then I'm sorry, I do have to dash. I'm loving the conversation. When you show the flavometer, and again, you make the allusion to John Glazer, with John Glazer, if you go to the website, you'll actually see the exact percentage breakdown of each distillery and each cask that's in his bottle. On our website, we put full tasting notes. We put full cask information. And again, it's all about transparency. We want to give as much information to the consumer as we have. There's nothing that we know about that cask that we are not sharing with our consumer, whether it be Nation member, whether it be retail consumer. And for our retail line, we put full tasting notes on our website as well. We have a full list of our distributors across the United States. Sam is the importer of Single Cask Nation to the United States, and we thank him every day that we're alive for that, because he's wonderful.
You're all right, Sam.
He's all right.
I do
And
wanna-
so Dan sells us in Florida and maybe Georgia, I don't know.
I just want to say that we all wish with all of our hearts that your wife has the most wonderful recuperation and
Thank you.
heals. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. So does my cat, by the way. Just taking time out of your evening to share your wisdom with us.
My pleasure. Wisdom is pushing it too far, but we certainly had a good time chatting with one another. So.
Josh said you had a bunch of dirty jokes to tell us, but
Josh was the dick joke guy. I'll leave you with one. You've probably heard it. I've told it in every state in the nation. Old couple go to Scotland. They're touring around. They go into a bar in the Highlands. There's an old geezer sitting at the end of the bar, and they're just quietly drinking away, chatting away, talking about their day. And the old boy looks up. He goes, "You see this bar?" And I tried to make it a little less American, a little less Scottish for the American audience. But do you see this bar? I built this bar with my own two hands. But do they call me Wally who built the bar? No. Look at that window. Do you see that barley? I planted that barley with my own two hands. But do they call me Willie who planted the barley? No. But you fuck one sheep.
Love that joke.
Thank you. And on that bombshell.
Jason, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
And hey, we're doing this at least for the end of the month. We're doing it every Friday. If you want to pop in, say hello, chat.
Yeah, cheers.
You're more than welcome.
Cheers.
I appreciate it. You're a friend of the 3DC, and I will definitely bring your bottles to our tasting.
That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
No,
I really appreciate that.
It's wonderful stuff. I think everyone should try it. So cheers. Good luck
Cheers to you all.
Cheers. Sláinte.
Sláinte indeed. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good seeing you, Jason. Take care.
Cheers, lads. Good
Thanks
seeing
a
you,
lot,
Brian,
Jason.
Dan, Sam. Cheers, Adrian, for hosting me.
Work
Thanks,
on
everybody.
that Scottish accent, please, for me. Just work on it.
It wasn't that scary, was it?
No. It was a lovely group. I think Jared not being here probably made it better. That's my opinion.
I'm pretty sure he's hungover.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Take
Good
care.
night, everybody.
Kitty, stop.
Hey, Sam, thank you again. I know it's you and your guys that are making this happen with the people coming on and the tasting for next week. Like I can't express like when I opened up the glass and I saw the setup with the little tasting notes, I was like, you're making this hard for me, because I was just hoping to just deliver 5 tasters and then like I can build from there. But now if I ever do another tasting like this, it's going to be hard for me to.
I know he didn't love me enough to include me though.
You live too far away. You know, Palo Alto, it's like another side
Well,
of town.
you're not
So,
fast
very
enough.
close.
Sorry, I put it out there and it's sold out in 30
It's
minutes.
not his fault.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was very busy with work, but
If you're not afraid of
That's
social isolation, you can come over to my house and drink with me.
then I would have to live at your house because
That's the
Uh-oh.
problem there. You'd be a much better roommate than the ones he has.
Oh, is that a
it's true. I replaced the toilet paper roll.
Touche. And take the cardboard boxes out of the fridge.
I have an
And she probably won't drink all your
expert-
Napoke 51. No, wait, she's my sister. Yes, she will. Ah.
As long as you have all these glasses empty, he'll be fine. You know, that's the
There
only
you
complaint
go.
I have.
Exactly.
With Sean. So, guys, about Jason, just a little bit. Let's gossip about this guy. I knew him probably before 2009 when he used to run a blog called Whiskey Guild, and for whatever reason, in 10 years, he didn't prolong his trademark and he lost it. I think it's one of the best names you can always you can use for a whiskey blog. I knew Joshua, who, Adrian, to your question about tasting notes, he would be a blogger that would put the pictures of a tasting notes. Like he would get some berries, it would be a picture of berries or cheese or used diapers. You know, he put one time he tasted Lafroig and he thought it tasted like a used diapers. And he wrote it on his blog, and people from Lafroig got a hold of him saying, got a problem. So two very interesting chaps, you know. And, you know, at some point, Joshua got into this industry. Well, his dream was always not to just have fun with whiskey, but also make money with whiskey. And these guys do a great job. They also used to have a festival called Jubilee, Jujew, Jubilee. And they were named 10 top whiskey fests in the country. They used to call whiskey geek tours, where Jason would take 8 people, a group of 8 people, and they pay like $2,000 or whatever, and he would take them to 20 distilleries in 4 days or something like that. It was a line of people who wanted to be part of it. And when we go to Scotland, we take Jason because A, he's a great driver. He knows how to drive on this side of the road, not this side of the road. He's always a big joke guy. As long as you have enough beer for this guy, he'll be entertaining you all day long. And I always make fun of him because he's a professor at Virginia University. And some things that he does, like jokes and all this stuff, really put him on a little bit different side of spectrum. So really interesting character. He's very humble, but really good guy. And what he said about what they do about their whiskey, about their selection process, about their labels. I've been their importer from day one, and I was watching this evolution. It just deserves a book to be written, really.
I'll say this much. Honest to God, like I didn't even get close to all the questions I wanted to ask. Like it was fun to easy to. I mean, obviously, you have a Scottish accent. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a guy. If you have a Scottish accent, you can talk forever. I'll listen. But it's fun to see his journey and see what he was doing and talk about what they're up to. I think, and again, Sam, this is the thing that I think there's this merging of awesomeness with the 3DC, my friends. Like, I cannot sell my friends enough. I have the best group of friends on the planet. And then you look at Joshua and Jason, and I've gotten a chance to talk to Joshua, so I can just tell you that like Joshua would fit in the group really well as well. I'm glad we didn't do a tasting because I think the tasting actually takes away from the fun conversation. Next week will be interesting because I want to make sure we don't take away from the good conversation, but still get to taste really great whiskey.
Fergus, let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill the recording now, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.